I found out my husband was cheating on our anniversary night. Throwaway because my husband knows my main. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the person writing one of these posts, but here we are. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Mark, 36M, for 8 years. We weren't perfect, but we were stable, predictable. The kind of couple friends joked were boring in a good way. We had routines, inside jokes, stupid rituals like always ordering the same takeout on Fridays. Nothing glamorous, but solid. Except, looking back, the last couple of months had small cracks I didn't want to see. Mark had been snippy over nothing, like full-on bitchy, because I forgot to buy the right brand of cereal. He started guarding his phone like it was a newborn baby, and he was the only one allowed to touch it. He claimed work was insanely stressful, even though he was supposedly training a new assistant who was taking so much off his plate. Oh, irony. Still, I chalked all of it up to burnout. I kept telling myself that everyone gets moody, everyone hits rough patches. I was so sure things would smooth out, especially because our anniversary was coming up and he'd been strangely insistent on planning something special. Little did I know. So our anniversary rolls around, and Mark tells me he made reservations at this cute little Italian place we both love, tiny tables, dim lights, everything smelling like garlic heaven. He said he'd meet me there straight from work because he'd probably be running late with all the new training stuff. Fine. I got dressed up, even curled my hair, which I hate doing, and got to the restaurant right on time. And then I waited, and waited, and waited. After about 30 minutes, I texted him. No response. After an hour, I called. Straight to voicemail. The waitress kept giving me the sympathetic, "You okay?" smile that honestly made everything worse. I felt like some tragic rom-com character who didn't realize the audience already knew the twist. That sinking feeling in my stomach? Yeah, it started right there. Something was off. Way off. But I stayed because I still believed he'd walk in with some stupid, dramatic excuse. He didn't. About an hour and a half into being stood up, I finally decided to leave. I asked the waitress to cancel the table, muttered something about a work emergency, and walked out trying not to cry in the parking lot like a cliché. As I'm unlocking my car, my phone finally buzzes. It's a text from Mark. Running late. Don't freak out. That's it. No apology, no explanation. Just that snippy little "don't freak out," like I'm the unreasonable one for being upset he's almost 2 hours late to our anniversary dinner. Annoyed and exhausted, I decided to drive home. But on the way, I had this weird gut feeling, like that prickly intuition that something isn't just wrong, but wrong. Then I hit a red light. And right there, while I'm sitting in the left turn lane, guess who I see? Mark's car. Parked outside a hotel. At first, I thought, no way. Maybe he was meeting a client? Maybe there was some surprise he hadn't told me about? Maybe I was jumping to conclusions because my emotions were a mess? But then, as the light turned green, I saw him. Mark. Laughing. Walking out of the hotel entrance. With a woman. And not just walking, his hand was on the small of her back, in that intimate, familiar way he used to guide me through doors. My stomach dropped so hard I swear the air got punched out of me. I circled the block so fast I probably broke 3 traffic laws. Because I needed to be sure. I needed to see everything clearly before I let my brain explode. And trust me, I saw enough. I parked across the street, hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the engine off. I just sat there, staring through the windshield, watching them. It felt like watching someone else's life fall apart, like I was floating outside my body. They stood by his car talking, way too close. She touched his chest at one point, and he grinned, that stupid, smug grin he gets when he thinks he's charming. The one he used to flash at me during our early dates. Then he kissed her. Not a peck. Not a drunken slip-up. Not a misunderstanding. A full, soft, practice kiss. The kind you give someone you've kissed many, many times before. I don't even remember opening my car door. I don't remember crossing the street. All I know is the next thing I saw was Mark's face going sheet white as he looked up mid-laugh and realized I was standing 10 feet away. The woman froze. Mark froze. I didn't. I marched right up, adrenaline doing all the walking for me, and said the only thing my brain could produce. Happy anniversary, Mark. His mouth opened and closed like a confused fish. Then came the first lie of the night. This isn't what it looks like. Of course. The classic. The woman just stepped back, mumbling something like she didn't know he was married. She was lying, more on that later. And Mark started stuttering excuses so fast I swear he was speed running a cheating husband script. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Everything felt surreal, like the world tilted and I was sliding off of it. And that's when the first tiny spark of anger lit inside me. Just the first one. Mark finally managed to form a full sentence, and of course it was peak stupidity. She's my coworker. I was just dropping her off because her car broke down. At a hotel. After kissing her like he was auditioning for a romance movie. I literally laughed. Out loud. It startled all 3 of us. The woman looked at him like, really? That's your story? But she didn't correct him, just sort of folded her arms and stared at the ground. I asked him, so when did the repair shop start operating out of the Marriott lobby? He immediately snapped back with, why are you being dramatic? You always do this. You always assume the worst. Keep in mind, I caught him kissing another woman 5 seconds earlier. Then he actually turned to her and said, just go. I'll handle this. Handle this. Like I was a paperwork problem he needed to file. She gave me this annoying pity look, like I was some fragile woman being blindsided, and then scurried off. Mark didn't even watch her leave. He was too busy trying to stand between me and the hotel entrance like that would magically erase what I saw. I asked him flat out. How long? Instead of answering, he launched into this bizarre monologue about how I've been distant, how he felt unappreciated, how our anniversary wasn't a big deal anyway. He was bitchy, defensive, and smug all at once, as if I was the one who messed up. Every word made the anger in me flare hotter. I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I was just burning. Then he made the fatal mistake. If you hadn't been so uptight lately, maybe I wouldn't have needed distractions. Needed. Like cheating was some basic necessity for survival. And that was the moment I knew we weren't coming back from this. But that was only the beginning. After he dropped that, maybe I wouldn't have needed distractions line, like cheating was a hobby he picked up because I forgot to giggle enough at his jokes, I just went silent. Not frozen. Not shocked. Just done. He kept talking, like he thought he could talk his way out of the hotel, out of the kiss, out of all of it. And every sentence somehow made him sound guiltier. He cycled through the entire cheater's bingo. It didn't mean anything. You're overreacting. We were just stressed. She came on to me. I was going to end it anyway. And what, Mark? The hotel loyalty program? When he realized I wasn't responding, he switched tactics and got nastier. His voice went sharp, hissy, like he was embarrassed and trying to claw his dignity back by shredding mine. You can't just storm up like some crazy person. You embarrassed me. I embarrassed him. In front of the woman he was cheating on me with. On our anniversary. My vision tunneled for a second. Not from crying, just from sheer disbelief at how delusional he sounded. So I asked him again, quieter this time. How long? And he finally said something honest, though not intentionally. He flinched. That tiny movement told me everything before he even opened his mouth. Which is exactly why I didn't stick around for whatever garbage excuse he was going to spit out next. I turned around, walked back to my car, and didn't look over my shoulder once. I heard him call my name. Once. Twice. Then angrily. Then pleadingly. I didn't stop. I drove home with my hands clenched so tight on the steering wheel that my fingers were numb. The silence in the car was so loud it felt like pressure in my chest. Shock, fury, heartbreak, all of it crashing together. But even then, I hadn't seen the worst of it. Not by a long shot. I got home before he did. Of course I did, he had things to wrap up, meaning he probably had to drop off a side piece or come up with a new round of lies. I walked into the house, still in my anniversary dress, heels dangling from my fingers because my feet were killing me after standing around waiting for a man who was busy kissing someone else. The house felt different. Not physically, just off. Like I could suddenly see every moment of the last few months through a different lens. I went straight to the bedroom, not even sure what I was planning to do. Pack? Scream? Sleep for a year? Then I saw it. Mark's work phone. The one he never brought home. The one he specifically said he had to keep at the office because of confidential documents. It was sitting on the dresser. Screen lighting up every few seconds. And guess what? No password. For a man who lies recreationally, this was the sloppiest mistake of his life. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But at that moment, I felt like the truth owed me something, like I deserved to know exactly how deep this betrayal went. And oh, my God, the messages were a disaster. Hundreds of texts. Late-night selfies from her. Complaints about me, twisted versions of arguments we had, except in his version, he was some kind of victimized saint. Plans for more, hotel meetings. Disgusting jokes. Conversations about our anniversary. At one point she asked, "Aren't you supposed to be with your wife on Thursday?" And he replied, "She won't care. She's used to me being busy." That one hurt. Like physically. Then I found the kicker, messages from today. While I was sitting alone at dinner, checking my phone like an idiot, he was texting her. She's probably already crying. She's so dramatic. After tonight, I'll tell her I need space. It'll make things easier. Wish you were here instead. I had to sit on the edge of the bed because my legs literally weakened. Every part of me shook, rage, heartbreak, humiliation, everything I'd been holding back since the hotel. And that's when the door opened. Mark walked in, saw me with the phone, and everything exploded. Mark froze in the doorway like he'd walked into a crime scene, which, honestly, we both had. His eyes went straight to the phone in my hand, then to the screen still glowing with the last message he'd sent her just an hour earlier. For a moment, he didn't even speak. Just stood there, mouth half open, like his brain had crashed. Then he did what all guilty men do. He lunged for the phone. I pulled it back. He grabbed my wrist. I yanked away. The whole thing turned into this chaotic, clumsy scramble, him trying to snatch it, me refusing to let him rewrite the truth. He finally shouted, "You're invading my privacy." I laughed, this weird, hysterical laugh that didn't even sound like me. "Your privacy?" I snapped. "You cheated on me on our anniversary, Mark." And instead of apologizing, instead of even pretending to be sorry, he doubled down. "It wasn't cheating. You twisted everything." Right. The hotel was a business seminar. The kissing was CPR training. The texts were interpretive poetry. I told him I'd seen everything. The messages. The photos. The way he talked about me. And you know what he said? "You were going to overreact no matter what, so what was I supposed to do?" Like the issue wasn't the cheating, but my potential future reaction to his cheating. That's when the fight went nuclear. He started pacing, running his hands through his hair, ranting about how stress made him do it, how I never appreciated him, how the woman understood him, how I was turning this into a bigger deal than it needed to be. A bigger deal than finding out your husband is juggling his anniversary dinner and his side piece like it's a scheduling conflict. The shouting escalated. He tried to twist every piece of evidence into a lie. He tried crying at one point, a pathetic, dry-eyed attempt at manipulation. Then he switched to anger again. Then guilt-tripping. It was like watching a man cycle through every personality he had, searching for the one that would shut me up. Nothing worked. Because I wasn't crying. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't bargaining. I was done. And he could feel it. He finally stopped talking, breathing hard, staring at me like he didn't recognize me at all. He asked, "So, what now?" And I realized I actually knew the answer. But saying it out loud? That would come later. After his pathetic, "So, what now?" question, the room went silent. And not the normal kind of silence. This was that heavy, suffocating quiet where the air feels too thick to breathe. I set the phone down on the bed, screen still lit with his affair in full display. He stared at it like it might bite him. "Good." I told him, very calmly, too calmly, honestly. "I'm not doing this tonight." He blinked. "Doing what?" I gestured vaguely at the tornado of drama he'd created. "This. You trying to spin things. You trying to make me responsible for your choices." He scoffed, crossed his arms, and said, "You're being cold." Cold. Because I wasn't performing heartbreak the way he expected. In that moment, something in me quietly snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, just a clean internal break that said this chapter is over. I walked past him and went to the guest room closet, pulled out a suitcase, and set it on the bed. The sound of the zipper alone sent him into a tailspin. "What the hell are you doing?" he demanded. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. His voice got louder, more frantic. "You're just leaving? That's it? No conversation?" I turned and finally looked at him, really looked at him. Red-faced, panicked, angry, embarrassed, scrambling to control the narrative. I said, "You had your conversation at the hotel." His jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Then came another round of excuses, weak ones this time. He tried to say the affair wasn't serious. He claimed it only happened a few times. He insisted I was throwing away our life over one mistake. One mistake. Multiple hotels. A phone full of messages. Plans to emotionally prep me for a break so he could be with her guilt-free. One mistake, sure. I started packing, just clothes at first, then toiletries, then whatever else I could grab with shaking hands. Mark kept ranting, begging, accusing, guilt-tripping in this wild, emotional whiplash. But none of it stuck. His words felt small. I felt detached. Not numb. Just done in a way I had never felt before. When I zipped the suitcase shut, he stopped talking altogether. He just stared. And for the first time that night, he actually looked scared. Because he finally realized he didn't control the situation anymore. I rolled the suitcase to the hallway, and Mark finally snapped out of his stunned silence. He followed me like a shadow, hovering way too close, hands twitching like he wanted to grab the suitcase, but knew better. His voice was shaky now, not angry, not defensive, scared. "Where are you even going?" I didn't answer at first because honestly, I didn't know. My sister's? A hotel? Anywhere that didn't smell like his cologne and lies. He stepped in front of me, blocking the door. "We can fix this." That sentence, phew. It hit me harder than the cheating because it was so delusional it almost made me dizzy. I said, "Mark, you were literally texting her while I was sitting alone at dinner. What exactly is there to fix?" He exhaled hard, like he was the one who'd been betrayed. Then he said the line that became the final nail in our marriage coffin. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't sleep with her. My grip tightened on the suitcase handle. I turned around, walked right back to the bedroom, grabbed his work phone off the bed, scrolled for 2 seconds, and held up a message he sent her last week. "Last night was amazing. Same time Friday." He froze. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words. Just the dawning horror of a man who realized he'd forgotten to delete his own confession. And that's when I said it. "Move." My voice was low, firm. I didn't recognize it, but it worked. He stepped aside. I walked to the front door, suitcase wheels thumping softly behind me, my heart pounding so loud I heard it in my ears. My hand was on the doorknob when he tried one last, desperate attempt. "If you leave, that's it? You're just giving up." I didn't turn around. I said, "No, you gave up. I'm just catching up." Then I opened the door and walked out. And the moment the door clicked shut behind me, something inside me cracked. Not the painful kind, but the kind that lets the light in. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew exactly where I wasn't staying. I didn't go straight to my sister's. I didn't even call anyone. I just drove. The streets blurred under the headlights, and every red light felt like a judgment, every green one like a small permission to keep moving. I finally let myself cry, just tiny, sharp hiccups at first, then full-on ugly crying. Not the romantic, cinematic kind. The messy, "I can't believe this is my life right now" kind. My mascara ran down my face, my hand shook, and I barely noticed the traffic around me. The strangest thing? I didn't feel like I was crying over Mark entirely. I felt like I was mourning the version of myself that thought we were happy. The version that trusted him. The version that believed in us. That person was gone, burned to the ground by his lies and arrogance. I stopped at a gas station and sat in the car for a while. Just sat, listening to the quiet hum of the fridge inside, the occasional honk outside, and my own ragged breathing. I kept replaying everything in my head, the hotel, the kiss, the texts, his bitchy little excuses. And each time, I got angrier. Not just at him, but at the years of small lies and manipulations that had been hiding behind routine. I realized then that anger was better than despair. Anger was fuel. Despair would have kept me stuck in that apartment with him, pretending I could fix the unfixable. When I finally pulled myself together, I called my sister. She was calm, supportive, and didn't say anything like, "I told you so." Just a simple, "Come over. We'll figure it out." I drove the rest of the way there with tears drying on my cheeks, suitcase rattling beside me, and a strange, heavy sense of liberation settling in. For the first time that night, I felt like I was doing something for me. I didn't speak to Mark after that night. I didn't answer his texts, his calls, his desperate emails. I blocked him on everything because every notification felt like a knife twisting in a wound that was still raw. Sleeping at my sister's was strange. Safe, but strange. Her guest room smelled faintly of lavender and old books, a stark contrast to the staleness and tension of my home. I couldn't stop thinking about all the moments I'd taken for granted, the little routines, the predictable evenings, the way I thought he loved me. I stared at the ceiling most of the night. It wasn't panic exactly. It wasn't even grief. It was a mix of disbelief and clarity. I kept replaying what he said, "You're blowing this out of proportion, and if you hadn't been so uptight, how could someone who claimed to love me act like that? How could he reduce 8 years of marriage to a series of justifications and excuses while hiding a life with someone else?" I cried again, silently this time, letting the quiet of the house absorb my heartbreak. But somewhere in the middle of the night, between tears and hiccups, I felt the tiniest spark of something I hadn't expected, relief. Relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore. Relief that I didn't have to lie to myself about what I deserved. Relief that, as awful as the night was, I finally had space to breathe without him hovering over my emotions, controlling them, twisting them. I didn't know what would come next. Divorce? Therapy? Rebuilding my life? I didn't know. But for the first time in years, I felt like I had a choice, real choice, about the life I wanted to live. The next few days were a blur of texts I ignored, missed calls, and moments of quiet panic that came in waves. Mark tried everything, guilt-tripping, pleading, angry messages, even one pathetic attempt to explain everything over email. But I didn't respond. Not a single word. I spent the time with my sister, my friends, and even some long walks alone, just letting the truth settle in. And here's the thing, it hurts in a way I didn't expect. Not just the betrayal itself, but the realization that the life I thought I had, our routines, our inside jokes, our boring but safe marriage, wasn't real for him. I started journaling every night, pouring out what I felt, no filter. Rage, sadness, disbelief, humiliation, all of it. It was messy, exhausting, and somehow healing. Every entry made me more aware that I couldn't go back to the way things were, even if he begged. Then came the hardest part, looking at myself in the mirror and acknowledging the uncomfortable truth. I had stayed too long in silence. I had ignored red flags. I had let routine blind me to real problems. None of that excuses him, of course, but I had to be honest with myself about my role in ignoring warning signs. And that honesty, bitter as it was, became strangely empowering. By the end of the week, I knew what I couldn't do, stay with a man who had so casually discarded my trust and manipulated me into believing I was overreacting. And that meant making the next choice, moving forward without him. I finally told Mark, via email because I couldn't face him in person without losing control, that our marriage was over. I kept it short, calm, and firm, no room for argument, no open door for his lies. I wrote about the hotel, the texts, the kiss, the gaslighting. I didn't sugarcoat my feelings. I didn't apologize for being hurt. I didn't give him a chance to defend himself, because he didn't deserve one. And you know what was wild? Even after all that, he tried. "Can we talk? I'll change. I'll do whatever you want." No. I didn't even respond. I packed the rest of my things from our apartment over the next weekend, with a few friends helping me. Every item I carried out felt symbolic, taking back my life piece by piece. Some nights, I'd catch a whiff of his cologne on a sweater or see a photo of us smiling at some trip, and it would sting. But it was nothing compared to the constant, gnawing sting of betrayal. By the end, the apartment felt empty, but in a good way. Clean slate. No reminders of lies staring back at me. I changed the locks, filed for separation, and started planning my life as a single person again. And honestly, there was a weird sense of relief in taking control. He had taken so much from me in secrecy, but in the end, leaving gave me back the one thing he could never touch, my self-respect. It's been a few months since I walked out that door. Mark has tried a couple of times to reach out, but I haven't responded. And honestly, I don't want to. I don't miss the version of him that existed in my head, the lying, manipulative, bitchy man who treated my feelings like an inconvenience. I miss who I thought he was, but that's not reality. I've spent the time rebuilding myself. Therapy helped a lot, processing the betrayal, untangling my emotions, and understanding that none of this was my fault. I've leaned on friends and family, rediscovered hobbies I'd neglected, and even started dating again, carefully and slowly, because I finally feel like I know my own worth. Here's what I've learned in the blunt, painful way life sometimes teaches lessons. Trust your gut. Those little alarms you ignore, they're usually right. Cheating isn't a mistake, it's a choice. And no one gets to decide whether that choice hurts you. You deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty. If someone can't give that, walking away isn't failure, it's self-preservation. Anger and grief are okay. Let yourself feel them. They're part of healing. I'm sharing this because if anyone is reading this and suspects their partner might be lying or cheating, don't ignore the signs. Protect your heart, document what you need to, and remember that leaving doesn't make you weak, it makes you aware of your own value. As for Mark, I'll always remember him as the man who forced me to finally choose myself. And that actually feels like a gift in disguise.